I quite liked that moment with the dragon, and I think there was something I wanted to bring to it, which is quite animalistic. Animals go on the smell of something. If you're coming up to a horse, you want it to sniff you before it trusts you, and hopefully that worked with the dragons. If you show quite a vicious animal fear, it will jump on that, but if you show it bravery, then it will respond in a different way.
She sees his interaction with her dragons, and it's an attractive quality for her. They're beautiful, aren't they?
Wasn't the word I was thinking of, but yes, they are.
Busted. Me and Jon Snow just chilling on a cliff by ourselves. No, you know, don't read into it.
I think it was one of the most important scenes, certainly for Jorah this season.
You're great.
She told him to go find a cure, and of course he did. It's Ser Jorah. Like, what else is he gonna do? Go and mope? No. Gonna die? No. He's gonna go and fix himself.
Jon Snow, this is Sir Jorah Mормonт. An old friend.
I served with your father. He was a great man.
I think it's a weird one for Jon meeting Jorah. This man he's heard about as being a slave trader, bad guy. And yet, here's Daenerys trusting him, here's him seeming to be quite noble.
You look strong. You found a cure?
I wouldn't be here if I hadn't.
She was the one who kind of motivated him and said, please, you know, you need to find a cure because I need you with me. And that was a great gift from her. And it felt like it put the badness of our history and my initial betrayal to bed.
I return to your service, my queen. If you'll have me.
In your mind, I think, you know, when you hear someone's got a terminal disease, or you think sort of, you know, that's maybe a gift you give them in the moment. I'm sure he's had all these thoughts. How much did she really mean it?
It would be my honor.
It's not until she surprisingly embraced him that I think he feels he's finally come home.
It's one of the most tender moments that you'll see from Daenerys this season, because the thing about Ser Jorah is that he has been the one from the very beginning. And so I think he has an ability to see right through her.
I think at this point, Jon's willing to forgive anyone anything, pretty much. As long as they'll come on side with him, things can be ironed out afterwards.
I'll leave you to it.
When they finally meet, it's a really interesting, beautifully written scene. I don't think he had any idea he would ever return. I know family reunions for everyone are very awkward. Everybody has the drunk uncle or the mean grandmother or whatever it is. I don't know your life, but let's just say the Lannisters are a complicated bunch.
I needed to see you. And I knew you'd never agree to meet.
He doesn't know what to expect, really. He doesn't expect a warm welcome, that's for sure.
I thought I'd surprise you by hitting Casterly Rock. Father would have been proud.
Don't talk about father. He used to trust his brother, and I think deep down he still does, but even his brother betrayed him. He feels like he betrayed him because of, you know, he killed his father.
Listen to me.
I once told Bronn that if I ever saw you again, I'd cut you in half.
For me, it's always the intimate story, the character story, what links these people. And the bond between those two brothers is so strong.
It'll take you a while with a sparring sword.
It's this very complicated thing of he's really looking forward to seeing him, and because he still loves him.
He was going to execute me. He didn't hate me because of anything I did. He hated me because of what I am.
It's at the very core of who they are as Lannister. They've been raised, they've lived in this bubble, that the most important thing is your family. You know, even if you have fights within the family, you still, you know, you're loyal. And for Tyrion to just jump ship and go straight to the enemy of all enemies.
Did you think I wanted to be born this way? Did you think I chose?
What do you want?
Daenerys will win this war. You're a military man. You must know there's no way around that.
The loyalty to Jaime is still really strong. The show's a lot about loyalty and how it manifests.
I think
Sansa's really excited to see her sister. Ever since, you know, the family split up and Ned got beheaded, it's been all about survival and being able to see her family again.
The first scene that Arya and Sansa have together is in front of the statue of their dead father, which is pretty sad, but just so powerful. And to have Sophie around on set again has just been the best.
Arya. Bran's home too.
I've watched these characters on screen for sort of 5 or 6 seasons and thought, oh wow, that's interesting, they're dynamic, they're this or whatever. And now I'm getting to act with them at last. But Bran is not Bran anymore, and it's a very, very interesting place to be. I saw you at the crossroads.
You saw me?
Bran has visions.
It's weird because the last time I was working with Isaac was like the pilot. So then to have him back and working with him in a completely different way where he's very kind of like aloof, it's kind of unnerving for me because I'm like, that's not Isaac and that's not Bran, that's not the Bran that I know, so it actually feeds into it pretty well.
I thought you might go to King's Landing.
So did I.
Why would you go back there?
Cersei's on her list of names.
Growing up, Arya always felt like the misfit. She was always tough, but now she's actually deadly. And it was important for Sansa to learn that as well.
Just as this great moment as the Starks are reuniting and everything should be happy and sentimental and nostalgic, but it's not going to be, because that would be too easy.
Every one of the Starks that has, you know, been through the Game of Thrones washing machine has turned out differently.
They've so adapted to their completely different situations that they are such different people now that they can't even completely trust each other. So that's an interesting dynamic.
Proper wine for proper heroes. Yeah. Maybe I'm not the most pleasant man, I'll admit it, but...
It's always interesting when you're starting a new season, and you know the question always is, what do you start with? You either start with something small to kind of ease your way in, or you just start with something huge and get it over with, and you can put that behind you. In this case, we started with something really huge.
Okay, everybody starting out there, and action.
That was your mistake. Leave one wolf alive, and the sheep are never safe.
And I love that scene, because you come into this and you're like, wait a second, Walder Frey's dead. How is this possible? What's going on?
I was thrilled that they'd made a full head prosthetic, which fitted my face, but I looked like David Bradley. As an actor, to really reveal yourself and take another face off your face rather than just pretend, that just made it a lot easier and a lot more fun, I guess.
It's the actors just kind of pulling on their own skin, really. And then it's really done in cuts, where the arm movement and where you place the camera, having Walder Frey do that, and then having Arya repeat that, but from a different camera angle that looks like something's come off, and it's very effective. What makes it extremely effective is Maisie's performance, because she just sells it so beautifully. And I love the moment when she turns to Walder's wife and says,
When people ask you what happened here, tell them the North remembers.
I think it's a great opener for the season. I think it's a great reintroduction to Arya, where she's coming from and where she's heading.
She realizes her power, and I guess, yeah, maybe there is the argument that you didn't have to kill the whole Frey army, but they weren't good news. I don't think we'll miss them.
I think, starting with the Army of the Dead, basically why that's really important is that this is the common enemy. This is like the bottom line. This is what everybody in the end is going to have to face. It's the enemy that is beyond all enemies. It's like the one thing that nobody really knows how to fight. And so the big question is, are these people going to get their act together? Are they going to figure out a way to fight the big enemy, or are they going to just eat each other alive before that even happens?
So the zombie giants this year, we've got 2 returning cast. We've got Ian White and we've got Neil Fingleton, who was with us on season 4. They're similar makeups, but we have kind of interchangeable little bits and pieces, and we do a slightly different paint scheme. We can have different costume as well. So it's creating 4 different looks. So for the whites, this year we decided that we'd up our game a little bit, and we've resculpted an awful lot of the zombies, their makeups. They're still very mix and match and generic because we have a huge amount of stunt guys, but we just thought we would change things up and improve some of the sculpts. It's been a huge production line, but it's something we were able to use a few existing molds and then make a load of new stuff as well.
Pretty song. I've never heard it before.
It's a new one. Ed Sheeran's got a beautiful voice, and we knew he was a fan of the show, and we knew that Maisie was obsessed with him. So we always thought it would be fun to try to get him into a Maisie scene at some point.
When I first got the scene and I was a Lannister soldier and it was with Maisie, I just assumed we'd all get killed at the end.
Action.
I don't want to steal your food.
You're not stealing, we're offering. Come on, it's going to be a cold night.
Just a nice moment for her to really enjoy human company without lies and trickery.
But I think the underlying theme is that, as in any war, the soldiers are just people and we are young boys.
She really enjoys just hearing their stories and finding a bit of normality again.
And I think she kind of realises that she can just kind of chill, let her guard down, have some food and crack some jokes.
So why is a nice girl on our own heading to King's Landing?
I'm going to kill the Queen.
And then to High Garden.
Then you go High Garden.
What is this?
It's what we've been waiting for our whole lives.
Shooting that map room scene was a really big thing, and very extensive conversations with Lena and Nikolai about that.
You afraid of me?
Should I be?
There's a great amount of need for revenge for her. Enemies to the south. It's like she needs to put everything to sleep that causes her pain. Enemies to the north.
And she's now just on this very driven, focused path to world domination.
And of course, we're introducing this whole new set, which is in this courtyard in the Red Keep, where there's a hand-painted map. Of course, you want to show this incredible thing. And also it has great metaphorical value. There she is walking all over the known world when thinking about, ruling it. So you kind of want to do justice to that aspect of it as well.
We thought that a painted map on the ground, that seemed like a good idea.
Enemies everywhere. We're surrounded by traitors.
We knew that Jim Staines, the graphic designer, would create something amazing, and he worked so hard on it.
We wanted to have some allusion to the opening title sequence. And that just meant using some of the lettering, some of the imagery, and coming up with good colors, and then working it out basically on a computer. Then we had an image which we could print out, which was the right size. Had to do pseudo-medieval drawings of towns, lots of lettering, lots of conversation with the designer especially. Then we had 2 guys come in, Dave Packard and Greg Winters, who came in to actually paint the image that I designed onto the floor.
The man who is firmly but politely dismissed at the beginning of the scene by Jaime Lannister is indeed Jim Staines, who designed and created the map to begin with.
I don't think being down on his knees for quite so long was as much fun as he thought it would be, but he did well.
Very nice. Lovely. Okay, moving on.
Seymour.
There is some fun to be had, I think, in seeing Sam in this new environment where, he really came here to the kind of tower of knowledge to learn the secrets of the known and unknown world. And he's really just, a cog in this machine.
Sam has quite a miserable time. A man's dreams not matching up to the reality.
We don't lean on montage that often in the show, partly because montages, to do them right, take a lot of time and a lot of resources. Bernie came to us at one point and she said, we've got 3.5 days schedule for this montage, which is a long time to shoot what is maybe a 2-minute montage.
You know, in the end, when we cut the scene together, it was hilarious.
Going back to a place that created you and that was the beginning of you and the end of your family is kind of epic.
Danny coming home was a really interesting sequence, and I think what was really lovely was that doing it for Game of Thrones, you're doing a sequence like that, you can really do it properly. Like, you can really take your time with it. You can really give it its due as a real moment.
Because there's no dialogue, it puts more weight on Emilia, who's doing all of this with her face and her actions and her movement. It puts a lot of weight on the art department because the place itself is really the other main character.
The space has to be something that Daenerys feels very connected to, where everything that she's heard about is suddenly somehow in front of her.
That was exciting to do, and the locations that we shot in Spain for it were absolutely stunningly beautiful.
We had to find somewhere that had a certain weight and power to it. And when we arrived at Zumaya Beach, the geological formations there are so unique and so special and so interesting that they have a weight to them that I think none of us could ignore.
Actually, quite often, we have to split location for the same scene. The end result was we decided that we could do most of what we wanted to do in 2 locations, split between Spain and Northern Ireland.
The arrival is shot in Zumaya. You then get up onto the platform, go up a set of stairs, and then we're on stage here in Belfast. And then once she goes through those doors here, then you pick her up again in San Juan, where she goes up the steps to the castle. Those locations together informed, for me, the whole design of Dragonstone. And it all came from those really unique rock formations, which are so, so special and very unique just to that part of the world.
The Gates of Dragonstone. It's probably going to be on film for about 30 seconds, but so much detail and work went into this set.
2 giant dragon heads were carved by our sculpting team, with the most beautiful, big, massive doors that were designed and built here.
The locations in Spain, you know, had that very strong rock formation, that very strong strated look.
And we were able to bring in those beautiful geological formations in those side corridors.
We had to use the rocks from the location. We sent out a team of plasterers to Spain. They took impressions of the stone. And from those, we created moulds, and we used those rocky shapes to create the shapes of the corridors and the cave. There's that kind of physical, geological journey that we were able to design. And then that all culminated in the throne room, where we had to create like a new architecture. It's a lot of work. It was very, very labour intensive.
I can do without looking. Looks brilliant.
It's going to be dramatic.
Yeah, it's really dramatic. Yeah, the angles are fantastic.
Dragonstone, of course, had been established in previous seasons before I came, so we had the Dragonstone map room, so it was already established as a cave-like space. So I wanted this set to sort of start in the cave and grow out of it. And then we were able to bring in those beautiful geological formations in that throne, you know, the Dragonstone throne, which I think is, you know, a really powerful sort of statement.
The only directions we gave her was that it should be quite imposing and intimidating, and that the throne would be carved out of the rock, and that was it. And, like, that's all we gave her, and then she went to town with that. The first time we saw it all lit for a scene, that was pretty dramatic.
As we were building it, people would walk through this set and they would feel, I feel very uncomfortable here. It's not a room where I want to spend a lot of time. So it was a new approach to an audience chamber, which was not welcoming people in. It was basically making people feel uneasy and intimidated.
Yeah, I think it's maybe the best set we've ever built.
It was really impressive. We couldn't wait to shoot it.
The audience chamber is incredible. One of the most staggering sets that I've had the privilege of being in.
Every moment of that journey from the ship to the place where she's actually going to stand and plan her conquest, there's a different flavor to each one of those moments.
And you realize this place where she was born, there was a whole culture there, there's a whole world there. And you get a real taste of it and the uniqueness of it. And the coming home is really very dramatic.
Shall we begin?
Take one. I mark it. You mark it. And action.
If you want the Iron Throne, take it. We have an army, a fleet, and 3 dragons. We should hit King's Landing now, hard, with everything we have.
The scene where we first reveal the new alliance of Yara and Ellaria and Olenna Tirell with Dany is vitally important in terms of the plot beats that it sets up, which echo through the season.
Everybody seems to have a map room. It's impossible to conceive of what the people in the show are conceiving of unless you have some kind of visual reminder of where this war is taking place and who is coming from where and going to where.
The importance for me was to show what their collective purpose was, which of course Peter's character Tyrion explains for us.
Okay, here we go. Let's roll, please. Mark it, please. And action.
Lady Greyjoy will escort you home to Sunspear. And her Iron Fleet will... Shit.
Happening, guys. Oh, nice.
No, it wasn't.
It was.
Well, you're not seeing what I'm seeing. It's lovely.
So here we are in the Dragonstone map room. It's slightly changed from the original. The big change is that we designed a new dragon. So we've taken the old dragon out and we're now sculpting a new design of a dragon in.
What you got?
What we got? Like a map table?
The first time we obviously see this and see the furniture, we're going to have it all sort of caked in dust and sort of lived in the map markers, all the old map markers are going to be tossed around the floor. So obviously the second time we do it, when we see it next, we'll sort of clean it up. And that's when we'll have the new map markers in there, basically.
We will not attack King's Landing.
So how do you mean to take the Iron Throne? By asking for it nicely?
With the exception of Tyrion, all the allies that matter in this scene are all women. I don't think there are that many situations in film or television where you see 4 women sitting around a table discussing power and strategy and war.
Will you take a bit of advice from an old woman? I've known a great many clever men. I've outlived them all. Do you know why? I ignored them. You're a dragon. Be a dragon.
Dame Diana telling me to be a dragon, I was like, banked. I'm gonna wake up some mornings and just tell myself that.
It's been so rare. We've all sort of been in like separate TV shows on these different locations story-wise, and we're lucky if we even meet each other actor-wise, so it's so much fun to be in the same room and act with them again.
Okay, settle now, please, guys. Here we go. Let's roll, please.
Sound speed.
Sound speed. 13, Nima, take 1. C marker only.
What are you doing?
You're not dying today, Sir Jorah. The operation on Jorah was one of the major technical challenges for me in episodes 2 and 3. 99% of the credit goes to Barry and his incredible prosthetics team.
It's something we hadn't necessarily done before, and it's like almost everything we do with prosthetics. It's all trial and error. We had to devise a way of removing the top outer skin of this disease and having an underlayer beneath which could bleed, and we'd have pus and various gooey things. And I think we had a team of 4 applying his body makeup.
My call, I was picked up at the hotel at 1:45 in the morning, and it was 5 or 6 hours to get the full top body prosthetic done.
Okay, and stand by to rip, please. Ripping in 3, 2, 1, rip!
The props for this scene are props that will be used in one scene, never seen again. You could have gotten away with a throwaway version of those props, and I bet 9 out of 10 people wouldn't have noticed because their eye is somewhere else. Deb doesn't approach her job thinking, well, nobody's gonna be looking over here. She gives equal focus to everything.
What people hold in their hands is really important because that tends to be what the camera will actually see in close-up. So something like Sam's medical instruments, you know, it's that cross between sort of medieval, but at the same time, you know, we're in the Citadel, and what does that mean? And what sort of instruments would Sam use to operate on Jorah?
Please try not to scream. I had 2 specific images. One was the camera there, and one was the camera there. The idea being that when we were seeing the scalpel cut through the grayscale, I wanted to also be able to see Ian's face and the pain of that. It had to have context. As a cutaway, it's just a prosthetic, but when Ian's face is in there, to me, it comes to life.
Even though everybody on the set knows that it is a prosthetic, there's an instinctive human reaction when you see blood and when you see flesh coming away from body and sinew underneath. You just have that instinctive reaction that you can't really control, seeing something that shouldn't be seen.
You do have those nice moments when you're as an actor where you sort of, which you're not supposed to do, there's supposed to be a hush in a studio, but certain moments where people go, oh no, that's disgusting.
How's that, Mark?
That's really good. It's funny if you want it. The location team in Seville had found this extraordinary old armory, which had incredible scope to it. The challenge was to bring Anton and Lena through the set in such a way that could maximize that depth. And of course, the incredible scope of a number of skulls that they supplied for us.
We had made all of these extraordinary dragon skulls here for months and months.
There must have been 50 dragon skulls down there of all different sizes and different states of disrepair. It's like Robert's hidden trophy room.
Of course, we had the giant skull that was in the back there.
That had a digital 3D sculpture done in the art department. Then we took on the task of translating that into a pretty large polystyrene carving.
Balerion the Dread's skull would be the hero prop, and it's the largest dragon that's ever existed. And this is the dragon that spearheaded the conquest of this whole country and that put all 7 kingdoms under Targaryen reign. So if you can drive a giant tree trunk bolt through the skull of this thing, that means that maybe you stand a chance against the Dragon Queen. If you can't, you don't.
There does appear to be a plan in hand.
Have you ever been down here, Your Grace?
No, I can't say I have.
If they can be wounded, they can be killed.
The weapon itself is something that Tommy Dunn and his team made, and it's real. I mean, it weighs thousands of pounds. It's functional. I mean, if you really increase the tension on it, you could put one of those bolts through a cement wall. We didn't do that because that would not be safe.
If you kindly pull that lever.
He shows Cersei a working model. So he's basically saying to her, we can do this.
You're the greatest captain of the seas, so we needed a good sea battle in this series, right?
Yara and Theon did underestimate Euron's prowess and power.
Euron's ship was such a great, humongous, mean-looking thing. It was so right for that character.
The Silence is Euron's command ship, and it's supposed to intimidate people when they see it, and it's supposed to strike fear into the hearts of his enemies.
Euron.
The boat itself is a big fuck you boat built by a big fuck you guy.
It's one of those things where the Silence was written bigger than what we could actually afford to build. And so we had to be clever about the way we did that.
We decided that the best way to really put across the true size of this boat was to build a section of it, the bow section that rams into Yara's boat.
And so we designed a big naval ram that was on the front of that boat that would then crash into Yara's. And that was an opportunity to reintroduce the Kraken. And also we had the Corvus itself.
We built the Corvus so that it became lightweight and very strong. We had a stuntman standing on the end, but obviously a controlled fall, so we had to make sure we had the right speeds, which meant that we had to control it with a wrench system.
Here we go, and 3, 2, 1.
One of the major challenges in the boat sequence was how to, sell the idea that this was happening at sea, that they were floating on water, and yet we're in a car park in Northern Ireland. Sam's first ever was, well, we'll just blast a load of water against the sides and it will splash up. By having this splash up, there was immediate visceral connection with the ocean.
We had green screens 60 feet high, all the way around the ship. So, there isn't really a direction that the camera can face that we don't have to do something.
We're big believers that real photographed elements are what helps sell the reality of our scenes.
Part of the look of it all, having a lot of embers burning through the shot as if all the boats are on fire. So we created ember guns. We had some larger rigs as well. We had a couple of moments where the whole sort of section of the mast would come collapsing down. Part of the battle is Euron's crews fire the burning projectiles at Yara's crew. Our effect there is really a lighting effect, which was basically a flare. Sometimes we had flares fired freehand, and sometimes we had flares fired down wires.
Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1, action!
I have an axe, right? Of course he has an axe. He doesn't fight with a sword, he has an axe. So the first hit I have, blood just came like, and I was like, yeah, this is awesome. All right, next one.
The Iron Islanders have a particular breed or species of violence, which is bludgeoning, basically.
I wanted it to feel like of a riot when there's a flash of, violence and it just kicks off and nothing should look choreographed. We had 40 stunt guys on there, 6 cast members and the crew.
It will be axe, whip, yank, punch.
Namira, played by Jessica, with the whip. That's quite a challenge to have a busy environment with an 8-foot whip. So we do lots of inserts with a real whip, and then we use a CG extension. And then killing of the sand snakes, we orchestrated their deaths, and the whole point of that was for them both to see each other die.
One of the things I think we, the production, learned was to make it personal, to stay with individuals within the chaos of the battle. Initially, it was all about Gemma's character, Yara. We also found that Euron was such fun that it became more of a split.
Give your uncle a kiss.
And Pilu is such a great kind of heir apparent to Ramsay, is such a great baddie for this season.
I enjoyed it a lot because it's fantasy. So all my bad, evil thoughts gets released in Game of Thrones.
The key moment in the sequence is Yara coming up onto the poop deck area, and really that moment of looking out over the stern of her ship and seeing the enormity of the attack and knowing that all is lost.
and that the only thing to do is to, you know, fight to the last, like a good Iron Islander.
3, 2, 1, action, you go. And then he's going to go on action, then we'll readjust.
Ready, and 3, 2, 1, action!
And it really all comes down to close-ups on 3 people and where they're at the end of this experience.
The key emotional moment was loss and betrayal when she realizes that her brother is broken. A take that I think we ended up using on her close-up, where there was just a small tear, which you know, we tend to be very kind of show a lot of restraint in any kind of overt emotion in the series generally, but that felt earned to me.
March though, what is it?
Oh, thank fuck for that.
Apple, take 3, A marker. B marker.
3, 2, 1, action!
When I read episode 3 and saw that I would be bringing Dany and Jon Snow together for the first time, the hairs on the back of my neck were standing up.
Jon meeting Dany. It was kind of an exciting, thrilling thing to watch happening even as we were shooting it.
So I think there is a spark from the beginning. Within the first scene when they meet, there's that kind of friction. So there's something bubbling.
People have been waiting 7 years for various people to meet and maybe get it on.
How very dare you.
Just kill it, Amelia. Just kill this scene. Kill it. Kill it.
We divvy up the scripts, and Dan will get one half and I'll get the other half, and we're always kind of fighting over which half, because there's usually a scene both of us really want to write, and of course in this episode it was the first meeting between Daenerys Targaryen and Jon Snow.
The scene, in essence, had to be relatively static. And so to achieve a sense of visual variety, we wanted to shoot from many different angles and to cut wide and get a sense of the majesty of this room, you know, whenever possible, without destroying the intimacy of this initial meeting.
Part of the fun of it is kind of undercutting the drama a little bit, you know, in the very beginning when Missandei does her lavish introduction of Daenerys and all the titles that Daenerys has acquired over the years.
You stand in the presence of Daenerys Stormborn of House Targaryen, rightful heir to the Iron Throne, rightful queen, rightful heir? Rightful heir to the Iron Throne. Oh, that was a good start. Rightful heir to the Iron Throne, the mother of dragons, the Khaleesi of the Great Grass Sea, the unburnt, the breaker of chains.
And then Jon's waiting for Davos to do the same for him, and Davos wasn't really prepared for that because Jon doesn't really collect titles.
This is Jon Snow.
And then there's that awkward beat.
He's king in the north.
For both Dan and me, I think it's one of our favorite moments in the whole season. And we've both watched that now hundreds of times, and I think I laugh every single time.
And then, of course, the scene becomes this fencing match.
So I assume, my lord, you're here to bend the knee.
I am not.
And a wonderful moment where she comes down talking about her faith in herself. And I was expecting Emilia to play it a certain way, and on the day she played it, it was so much better than the way it was in my head.
Do you know what kept me standing through all my years of exile? Faith.
She made it so much better. I really understood the iron will of the character in that moment and understood these two immovable objects.
The worlds colliding, and you realise the difference between these worlds. Between Jon's sort of humble, not wanting to show off, and then Daenerys, who is all show, who is all power.
I was born to rule the Seven Kingdoms, and I will.
You'll be ruling over a graveyard.
she's been the chosen one, and then suddenly this Jon Snow is like coming up in with a similar game plan of like saving people? No. No. She's ready for it when he comes in, but she tries to do her diplomatic thing first.
Jon is a terrible politician. Dany has this extraordinary pride and driven sense of entitlement to the throne, and that bars them from making a connection.
Am I your prisoner?
Not yet.
We're going to do a new version of the Walk of Shame, but I think what's going to provoke people with this one is that she's going to be on a leash. That's not a good signal to the rest of the female world, it's not. But he's not a very subtle guy.
This is divine.
As much as we're trying to imitate the Walk of Shame a little bit, obviously it's a slightly different affair because he's a conquering hero, so it's just the people he's dragging on the end of the chain are the ones that the crowd are booing.
This was soft tomatoes, and also there was what looked like phlegm. It was a bit green. It was made with aloe vera gel, so I'm sure it was a marvellous face mask. It was actually really fun, and I did think, how am I going to keep a straight face?
One of the most fun moments or beats in the scene for me is enjoying Euron, Pilo's Caesar, returning from the campaign moment of just his incredible kind of charisma, going through the blowing kisses to the girls.
I have to be honest. This is making me hard.
You realize, talking through Mark Mylod's episodes, how good he is at getting from one scene to another scene, where you just wipe Euron on his horse behind a pillar, and then he wipes out behind another pillar, and he's in the throne room. That's a very nice little piece of filmmaking there.
And then, of course, coming into the throne room itself, and what he thinks is his, flirtation and his, furthering his ambition to marry Cersei, and of course Cersei is playing him like a violin.
There's only one reward I want.
When the war is won.
Of course, the fun of that triangle sets up with Euron shamelessly torturing Jaime is great fun.
I find it very upsetting, he comes in here and, he has the coolest looking outfit of all. He looks like a rock star. And he has the funniest lines.
Does she like it gentle or rough? A finger in the bum. Not now. We'll talk later.
Team worker. Clearing. Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
Set, and action.
Make sure you change the torches every few hours. I don't want her to miss a thing.
It was, literally the first day of shooting of the season, and it's a 4.5-page, incredibly intense scene. So it was a heck of a thing to ask Indira and Lena and Rosa to drop into on day one of shooting.
It's acting. So you put yourself in a difficult emotional place, you put yourself in the shoes of the character, and you go there.
Take one, Seymour.
I never got to have a mother, but Marcella did. She was mine. She was the best thing I ever did, and you took her from me. Why did you do that?
Obviously, she wanted revenge for Marcella. And what way is more painful than watching your daughter die, unable to touch her? As she wasn't.
And action.
I want you to know I understand.
The scene for everybody in the audience, for me anyway, is about satisfaction of revenge. Instead of indulging the character's sadism, being the arch baddie that we all love to hate, her approach is that this character is a three-dimensional mother and human being. She plays it almost with an unwillingness, like a runaway train that she has no control over, that she cannot stop herself, and I thought that was such an incredible choice.
Rosabelle and I had to wear manacles, and we were tied to the wall. And we had trouble, because either they'd come undone because we were fighting against them, or I couldn't get them off. And literally, at the end of the day, I was like, mate, can't get it off. Can someone help me? And everyone's gone. Pete from Props is like, I think we need a saw. And I had to be sawn out.
Thank you very much for an excellent day. I know it's a very tough day to start with. Everyone's work's appreciated. That's indeed a wrap. Thank you, guys.
What about Casterly Rock?
The Unsullied will be there soon.
Casterly Rock was a huge challenge because we didn't have a location for it.
It was on our laundry list of things that we were trying to find. And then what we ended up with was right under our noses. And that was our River Run set that we used last year.
Alpha 29 Alpha, take 6, E-mark.
And so consequently, we ended up with basically 40 foot of battlement to redress and reskin, and then with the idea that the visual effects department would extend that set.
The set that Deb Riley designed reminded me of Salzburg Castle, which I had scouted for another project. Then we kit-bashed a couple of castles that we had and added some features from Salzburg Castle. It's perched over, I think, the Rhine, so it looks just like Casterly Rock.
What was incredibly helpful there was the structure and the script of Tyrion's voiceover narrative.
Interesting thing about my father. He built Casterly Rock as we know it, but he didn't build the sewers.
Which allowed us to jump forward in time.
So it's a courtyard, plus a battlement, plus an exterior wall, plus a doorway.
Ready and action.
It's a big stunt affair, so we've worked very closely with Raleigh, the stunt coordinator, in terms of how ladders are put up onto the side. We're talking ladders here that's sort of 30 feet high or something. You know, it's quite a scary height to be working at, so that involves a lot of detail to get that right.
3, 2, 1, action!
We dropped one of our boys 18 feet on what we call a gold tail drop.
Ready and action!
Which was quite a hard hit, which was fun to do. Maybe not so much for him, but for everybody else it was quite fun.
It's very difficult to put together a kinetic sequence with a spear and a shield. Swords are much more fun because you can really swing them about. Spears are hard. Rowley and Jacob between them came up with what I think is a good journey for that character, with the determination and focus of that character to get to his goal.
I've been training for the last 2 weeks. This year's going to be slightly harder because I've got a helmet on for the whole fight. There's no peripheral vision, there's no up, no down, only straight ahead.
Along with Jacob and through that character's eyes, we drive forward with this expectation, as Tyrion says, you know, we will be victorious. And of course, that's not the case. We're completely blindsided with a classic David and Dan rug pull. When Grey Worm stands up onto the battlement and sees that his fleet is being attacked by Pilu's gang, it is a moment where we as an audience realise that Tyrion has been completely outflanked by his family.
Where are they? Where are the rest of the Lannisters?
We found a great place in Spain that just looked different enough to all our other castles to be somewhere like Highgarden, which is rich agriculturally, you know, very fertile area, and didn't look like a northern castle at all. It didn't have that heavy stonework.
It had a slightly feminine quality, and of course the view was just sumptuous. The morning we shot there, we came up at sunrise to get going early in the morning, and I think maybe one of the castle exterior shots catches a little bit of it, but there was a mist across the fields there that was just magical. It was Tolkien-esque, it was extraordinary.
We had to remove a lot of modern additions from there and build things to disguise the things that we couldn't safely remove. So hopefully it's largely invisible work from the construction point of view. And then the set dressing, adding in all of the chests and the gold. There was a lot of things that went into that location. Having already seen the taking of Casterly Rock, we just keep relentlessly showing battles. There's a diminishing return. The important emotional beat here was to get Jaime and Diana's character, Lady Olenna, into the same room. That was what the real battle was.
Here we go. Background.
The idea to march with Jaime and behind him was a dramatic device not to repeat a battle, and also just to show the focus, the stone-cold focus of that character of Jaime in his mission to what he has to achieve, which is to overthrow House Tyrell, and which he does with extraordinary success.
Will there be pain?
No. I made sure of that.
That's good.
And by the way, she managed to chug a whole glass of wine. That's not easy to do because there were 12 different takes on that bit, but she chugged it every time, and that's a pro.
I'd hate to die like your son.
But of course, at the end, she then tells him the truth about what happened to how Joffrey died.
Jaime finally gets to turn the tables on someone. He finally gets to kill one of his enemies, which we haven't seen that much, and she still wins the scene. She wins her death scene, which is a hard trick to pull off. And so much of it comes down to Dame Diana Rigg.
We've been so lucky to have her on the show.
That's a series wrap on Diana Rigg.
To sign off on one of the great television characters, bidding adieu to Diana Rigg's participation in Game of Thrones. It was special.
I can remember still the first time we met her in the lobby of a hotel in London. You know, you don't audition dames, they kind of audition you. She's been incredible ever since.
Tell Cersei, I wanted to know it was me.
Firstly, I was thrilled because the scene where she gets to the gates of Winterfell is really great.
I'm Arya Stark. This is my home.
Fuck off.
Everyone has been waiting for the Stark children to be reunited, me included, and the chance to bring them together was very exciting.
Your list of people I'm going to kill.
Probably the scene I was looking forward to the most was the scene between Sansa and Arya in the crypt when they're standing in front of the statue of their father.
Pretty sad, but just so powerful.
Doesn't look like him. Should have been carved by someone who knew his face.
As I read the progression of the season, I realized it wasn't going to be all fun and games on set, but to have Sophie around on set again has just been the best.
We were really excited. Like, when we first got the scripts, we were texting each other, "Did you read all the scripts yet?" And I'm like, "Not yet." And then I read that we reunited, and then I rang her up and I was like, "Oh my God, I just cried. Like, I can't believe this is happening finally."
Keep it settled, thank you. Just hold that for us for now. Yes. Hold that, ladies. Thank you. Try and resist each other.
You got that?
It's tricky.
It's complicated.
It's been so much fun. She's my best mate.
And everyone's like, "Oh, it's so nice you girls are back together again." And I was like, just you wait, because by week 2, you're all gonna hate us, because we're very annoying when we're together.
Before we left the gang.
Gang's love.
And cut, 3, 3.